Some of the most iconic car brands in history are collapsing right in front of us. And the crazy part, most people haven't even noticed yet. We're not talking about random companies nobody cares about. We're talking about brands that built legends, cars that defined entire generations, machines that people had posters of on their bedroom walls, cars that showed up in Hollywood movies, won championships, and ones made people feel something every time they turned the key. But today, those same brands are sitting on dealership lots, collecting dust. Inventory isn't moving. Dealers are struggling. And in some cases, entire lineups are disappearing overnight. And if you're planning to buy a car in 2026, this matters more than you think. Because buying into the wrong brand right now doesn't just mean getting a bad car. It could mean terrible resale, value expensive, repair snow parts, availability or owning something the company quietly abandons. So today, we're breaking down 6 legendary car brands that are quietly dying in America. Starting with one that used to be one of the coolest names in the entire industry. Number 6. Mitsubishi. There was a time when Mitsubishi wasn't just relevant, it was exciting. If you grew up in the late 90s or early 2000s, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. The Mitsubishi Eclipse. The moment that cars showed up in the Fast and the Furious, everything changed. Suddenly, Mitsubishi wasn't just another Japanese brand, it was cool. Then you had the Lancer, Evolution, turbocharged, all-wheel drive, aggressive styling. This wasn't just a car, it was a statement. And for a while, Mitsubishi had a clear identity. They were the underdog, the brand that punched above its weight. But fast forward to today, and that identity is completely gone. No Eclipse, no Lancer Evolution, no performance legacy. Instead, a lineup of crossovers that most people can't even tell apart. And it gets worse. They even reused the Eclipse name, but not for a sports car, for a crossover, which tells you everything you need to know about where the brand is today. Now here's where things start getting serious. Dealership inventory. Some Mitsubishi models are sitting for months, unsold. And in the car business, that's a huge red flag, because cars are supposed to move quickly. When they don't, that means demand is weak. And when demand is weak, discounts increase, resale value drops, and the brand starts losing relevance. But Mitsubishi has another major problem. Most people don't realize they don't build cars in the United States. Everything is imported, which means when tariffs hit, they get hit hard. At one point, they even had to pause shipments entirely. Think about that. A car company that literally had to stop sending cars to dealers. That's not a small issue. That's a structural problem. And when you combine weak demand, no clear identity, and external pressure, you get a brand that's slowly fading out. Number 5, Chrysler. Now this one actually hurts. Because Chrysler isn't just a car brand, it's American automotive history. This is a company that helped define what American cars even are. Back in the 1950s, Chrysler wasn't just competing, they were dominating. The Chrysler 300 wasn't just fast. It was called the Beautiful Brute. It was powerful, bold, and unmistakably American. And then in the 1980s, Chrysler did something that changed the entire industry. They invented the minivan. Think about that. An entirely new category of vehicle. Created by this brand, that's innovation. That's legacy. But today, Chrysler's entire lineup is basically 2 minivans. That's it. No sedans, no SUV, no performance cars. Just 2 variations of the same vehicle. And when a brand gets that narrow, it becomes fragile, because if that one category struggles, the entire brand struggles with it. And that's exactly what's happening. Inventory is piling up. Cars are sitting unsold. And reliability concerns aren't helping. When buyers start seeing repeated complaints about the same issues, they hesitate, and hesitation kills sales. But there's an even bigger problem. Relevance? Ask someone under 30 about Chrysler, and a lot of them will say, wait, are they still around? That's not just bad, that's dangerous. Because once a brand disappears from people's minds, getting back in is incredibly difficult. Number 4. Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo is one of those brands that people want to love. And for good reason. The history is incredible. Racing heritage, beautiful design, passion in every detail. When Alfa came back to the US, people were excited. This felt like something special. And for a moment, it was. The cars looked amazing. They drove beautifully. But then, reality hit. Sales never really took off. Dealerships struggled. And one major issue kept coming up again and again. Reliability. Because here's the thing. Driving experience gets people in the door. But ownership experience is what keeps them there. And if owners start having problems, word spreads quickly. Online forums, reviews, social media, and suddenly, the brand develops a reputation. And once that reputation sticks, it's very hard to shake. Now combine that with low sales volume, and you get another problem: dealer network weakness. If dealers aren't selling enough cars, they cut costs. Less staff, slower service, worse experience, and now even people who want to buy the car start thinking twice. Because at $50,000 or $60,000, you don't want uncertainty, you want confidence. And that's where Alpha struggles. Number 3. Mini is one of those brands that didn't just sell cars. It sold a feeling. The original Mini wasn't about horsepower, numbers, or luxury features. It was about character. It was small, simple, and incredibly fun to drive. In fact, it became so iconic that it won the Monte Carlo Rally multiple times, beating much larger and more powerful cars. That's how good it was. Asterisk. And when BMW revived Mini in the early 2000s, they nailed it. The cars felt unique. They had personality. People didn't just buy Minis, they became fans. But something changed. Over time, Mini started moving away from what made it special. The cars got bigger, heavier, more complicated, and slowly, they stopped feeling Mini. Take the modern Countryman. For example, it's now basically a full-size compact SUV, and that creates a strange situation. Because now, Mini is competing directly with brands like BMW and Audi on their own turf, and that's a dangerous game. Because when buyers are spending that kind of money, they start asking a simple question: why not just get the real thing? Why not go for a BMW X1 or an Audi Q3 instead of a Mini that costs the same? And then there's the interior. Mini decided to go Elin on a single circular TOUCHS CREEN. It looks cool at first, but in real-world driving, it's not always practical. Basic functions that used to be simple now require navigating menus. And for many drivers, that's frustrating. Even worse, some are calling it distracting. And when drivers start using words like annoying or unsafe, that's a serious problem. Now combine that with rising prices and slowing sales, and you get a brand that's starting to lose its core audience. The people who loved Mini for what it was are starting to feel like the brand is leaving them behind. Number 2. Infiniti might be one of the most frustrating stories on this list. Because this didn't have to happen at one point. Infiniti had everything going for it. The G35 and G37 weren't just good cars. They were respected. Rear-wheel drive, strong engines, great handling. These were real drivers' cars, and for the price, they were incredibly competitive. People genuinely cross-shopped them with BMW. That's how strong Infiniti was. But then, something strange happened. They stopped evolving, while competitors kept improving. Infiniti stood still. And in the car industry, standing still is the same as going backwards. Since here, quality started falling behind. Technology started feeling outdated. Design became inconsistent. And slowly, buyers started looking elsewhere. Brands like Lexus kept refining their luxury experience. Genesis entered the market and completely disrupted expectations. Even mainstream brands started offering better features. And Infiniti felt stuck in the past. Now here's where it gets really serious. Sales collapse. Over the years, Infiniti's numbers dropped dramatically. And when sales drop, everything else follows. Dealers struggle, profit margins shrink, and eventually, some dealerships start losing money entirely. Imagine running a luxury dealership and losing millions of dollars a year. That's not sustainable. So what happens next? Cost cutting, merging showrooms with Nissan, reducing inventory, shrinking the brand footprint. But here's the problem. Luxury is all about experience. And when you walk into a showroom that feels like a regular dealership, that experience disappears. And once that happens, the brand loses its identity. At this point, Infiniti isn't just competing with other luxury brands. It's trying to prove it still belongs in the conversation. Number 1. Jaguar. Now, this is the most shocking one on the list, because Jaguar isn't just a car brand, it's a symbol. For decades, Jaguar represented elegance, performance, and style. Cars that didn't just get you from point A to point B. They made a statement. The Jaguar E-Type is often called one of the most beautiful cars ever made. Even Enzo Ferrari reportedly admired it. That's the level we're talking about. But today, Jaguar is going through one of the most extreme transformations we've ever seen in the auto industry, and it's incredibly risky. Because instead of slowly evolving, Jaguar decided to completely reset. They started eliminating their entire lineup. Sedans, gone. Sports cars, gone. Even their most popular SUV, being phased out. And for a period of time, dealerships had almost nothing to sell. Think about that. A car brand with showrooms, but barely any cars. That alone is dangerous. But then came the bigger move. Jaguar announced a complete shift to ultra-luxury electric vehicles. We're talking prices above $150,000. That puts them in direct competition with brands like Bentley and high-end Porsche. And here's the critical question. Does Jaguar have the brand power today to compete at that level? Because moving up market isn't easy. You're not just selling a car, you're selling status. Heritage helps, but consistency matters more. And Jaguar is essentially asking a completely new type of customer to trust them at a price point they've never dominated before. At the same time, they're walking away from a large portion of their existing customer base. And that's a massive gamble. Because if the new strategy doesn't work, there's no easy way back. No fallback lineup, no safety net, just a complete reinvention, with everything on the line. Now, before we wrap up, there are two more brands that came very close to making this list, and they're worth talking about. Fiat is one of the oldest automotive brands in the world, and globally, they still have presence. But in the US, they've made a very bold move. They went all in on electric, with essentially one main product, the Fiat 500e. Now, it's a charming car. Stylish, compact, fun. But here's the issue. Pricing and practicality. For many American buyers, range matters, space matters. Versatility matters. And when a small electric car starts getting close to $40,000, people start comparing it to larger, more practical vehicles. And that's where Fiat struggles. Because what works in Europe doesn't always translate to the US market. Maserati is another brand with incredible history. Luxury, performance, prestige. But today, ownership experience is raising concerns. One of the biggest issues, depreciation. Some models lose value extremely quickly, and that affects buyer confidence. Because when people spend six figures on a car, they expect it to hold value better. Add to that concerns about shared parts, and brand perception starts to shift. And perception is everything in the luxury segment. Here's the reality. The car market is changing faster than ever. Electrification, technology, global competition. And not every brand is adapting successfully. Some are evolving, some are struggling, and some are quietly disappearing. But here's the key takeaway. Just because a brand was legendary doesn't mean it's a safe buy today. And if you are planning to spend thousands or even tens of thousands on a car in 2026, you need to look beyond the badge. Because the wrong decision could cost you more than you think. So now I want to hear from you. Which brand on this list surprised you the most? And do you think any of them can make a comeback? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe. Because we break down the real truth about cars, not just the marketing.